Stay where you are. The voice came from behind the stairwell wall, low, controlled, urgent, not panicked, not confused, controlled. Calder Ashbourne froze mid-step, his hand tightening around the strap of his leather travel bag. The hallway stretched ahead of him, polished stone, dim lights, silence so thick it felt engineered. His private jet wasn't supposed to land until morning. The calendar said Chicago, the security rotation said empty house. Yet someone was here. "Don't move," the voice added, "and whatever you do, don't make a sound." Every instinct he'd built across decades of boardrooms and hostile takeovers screamed at him to turn, to demand answers, to take control. But something in that voice stopped him cold. Not fear. Authority. "Where are you watching from?" Slowly, Calder shifted his eyes toward the hallway mirror. The reflection showed a woman standing in the shadows, not security, not family. The maid, the one who arrived before dawn and left before his meetings ended, the one whose name he'd never said out loud. Her finger pressed gently to her lips. Behind her, down the corridor leading to the west wing, a floorboard creaked. Someone else was inside the house. Calder's breath stalled halfway in, his heart thudded heavy and slow. The woman's eyes flicked toward the sound, then back to him. She wasn't reacting to the danger. She was managing it. The creaking stopped. Silence returned, but it felt different now, thicker, watching. Calder's phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't reach for it. The vibration felt too loud, too exposed. It stopped after 3 pulses. The maid's hand moved, palm down, fingers spread, a signal. "Wait." Another sound drifted from deeper in the house. Metal against glass, quiet, intentional. Someone wasn't searching randomly. They knew exactly where to look. Calder's pulse hammered against his ribs. He'd built empires on reading rooms, on knowing who held power before they spoke. But here, in his own home, the woman with the quietest presence in his life was the only one keeping him alive. Her eyes met his in the mirror. And for the first time in 20 years, Calder Ashbourne didn't feel like the most powerful person in the room. The mansion sat above San Francisco like a monument, glass and stone, designed to impress without warmth, to command without invitation. It was supposed to be empty tonight. That was the rule when Calder traveled. No staff overnight, no movement, no risk. Yet she was here. The maid stood motionless, her breathing measured, her posture still. She wasn't looking at him anymore, she was listening. "There in the study," she whispered, "one of them keeps checking the hallway." Calder didn't ask who they were. The way she said it, they told him she already knew. "You shouldn't be here," he mouthed silently. Her eyes flicked to his face. "That's what saved you." The words landed like a punch. Calder's mind raced. He hadn't told anyone he was coming back early. The jet's flight plan was locked. His assistant thought he was still in meetings. Even the house's automated systems were programmed for his absence. So how did she know? Another sound, a drawer sliding open somewhere deep in the west wing. Not frantic, deliberate. "How long?" Calder whispered. The maid hesitated. "Longer than you think." His chest tightened. That answer wasn't evasive, it was precise. She'd been tracking this, measuring it, waiting for something. Or someone. The lights in the hallway dimmed another notch, not a power failure. Someone had accessed the system remotely. Calder felt something unfamiliar crawl up his spine, not danger, betrayal. "Who's in there?" he breathed. The maid's jaw tightened. "People who smile at you in daylight." Calder's phone buzzed again. This time it didn't stop. The vibration rattled against his ribs, insistent, demanding. He reached for it slowly. The screen showed an incoming call. From his head of security. The maid's hand shot out, covering the phone before he could answer. Her grip was firm, unyielding. "Don't," she said. "Why not?" Her eyes locked onto his. "Because he's the one who let them in." Her name was Solene. He didn't know that yet. At that moment, she was just the woman who'd noticed things he hadn't. It started weeks ago. She'd noticed how the coffee tasted different on certain mornings, bitter in a way that didn't match the beans. How his water bottles were sometimes already open when delivered to his desk. How the cleaning schedule was subtly rearranged without her approval, small changes invisible to executives but obvious to someone who worked with routine as survival. She'd noticed his hands trembling when he thought no one was looking. She'd noticed the way he rubbed his temples after meals, the way his sentences sometimes trailed off mid-thought. She'd noticed the gaps in his memory. And when she mentioned it quietly, respectfully once, he had smiled, distracted, and told her not to worry. So she worried quietly. She began documenting, not dramatically, not suspiciously, just notes, dates, times, rooms cleaned twice, glasses moved, locks reset. She didn't accuse, she observed. Because people like her learned early, if you're going to survive near power, you don't speak loudly, you collect proof. One morning, she found a prescription bottle in his bathroom trash. The label didn't match anything his doctor had prescribed. She photographed it, researched it. The medication was real, but the dosage was wrong, dangerously wrong. That's when she stopped cleaning on autopilot. She started watching. Not him. Them. The people who came and went, the ones who refilled his coffee, the ones who delivered his meals, the ones who accessed rooms they had no reason to enter. She memorized faces, patterns, schedules. And she realized something terrible. The people poisoning Calder Ashbourne weren't strangers. They were the ones he trusted most. The sound from the study came again, unmistakable this time. A drawer opening, paper shifting, the rustle of documents being photographed or removed. Calder's study wasn't just an office, it held agreements that never went digital, contracts that existed only because trust existed, the kind of trust that evaporated the moment it was tested. They know you weren't supposed to be back yet, Solene whispered. They're working fast. Who? Calder breathed. Her jaw clenched. People who stood beside you on magazine covers. His stomach dropped, not random thieves, not hired criminals, people he knew, people he'd defended, people whose careers he'd built. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, another call, this time from his CFO. Solene shook her head slowly. Calder's hand trembled as he silenced it. The hallway lights dimmed further. Someone was cycling through the house's security protocols, testing access points, confirming blind spots. Every system designed to protect him had turned decorative. That's not possible, Calder whispered, the security. They didn't break it, Solene interrupted, they designed it. The words hit like ice water. Calder had hired the best, paid for redundancy, built layers of protection most governments couldn't afford. But protection only worked if the people building it weren't the threat. A shadow passed beneath the doorframe at the end of the hall. Solene's hand closed gently around Calder's wrist. Breathe through your nose, she whispered. They hear panic. They waited. Seconds stretched into hours. Footsteps moved past, slow, confident, unbothered. A voice drifted through the walls, low, familiar, amused. He always locks this place like a fortress, you'd think he was hiding something. Another voice chuckled. Calder recognized both. Men who'd toasted his birthday. Men who'd sat in his living room. Men who'd sworn loyalty when loyalty was cheap. His chest tightened, his vision blurred at the edges. Solene's grip on his wrist tightened. Not yet, she breathed. The footsteps faded. Only then did she move, pulling him gently down the hall, away from the main rooms, toward a service corridor he'd never noticed before. A path built for people no one was supposed to see. The service corridor was narrow, walls unpainted, floors unpolished, lighting sparse. This was the architecture guests never saw, the machinery that kept the mansion alive. Solene moved without hesitation, her steps silent, her body angled to avoid the single camera mounted at the far end. You memorized all this, Calder whispered. I clean it, she said, every corner. They reached a junction where 3 hallways met. Solene paused, listening again, her head tilted slightly, eyes unfocused. Calder realized she wasn't guessing, she knew the house better than he did. A door opened somewhere behind them, voices echoed, clearer now, closer. Check the guest house next, someone said. If he came back early, that's where he'd go. Solene didn't flinch. She guided Calder left through a door marked electrical authorized personnel only. Inside, the space was tight, humming with the sound of HVAC systems and server racks. Heat radiated from the machinery. The air smelled like copper and dust. They're not just stealing, Solene whispered. They're erasing. Calder's throat tightened. What does that mean? They've been moving money for weeks, not stealing it, shifting it, creating a story where you don't exist by morning. His breath stopped. That's impossible. Solene reached into her coat and pulled out a small recording device, the same one from before. It was impossible, she said, until you ignored the quiet. She pressed play. Voices filled the cramped space, contracts discussed, signatures forged, plans spoken casually like ordering lunch. One voice stood out, someone Calder had defended publicly, someone he dismissed private warnings about. The recording ended. Silence returned. Calder stared at the device in her hands. How long have you known? Solene met his eyes. Long enough to know no one would believe you without proof. The guest house sat 50 yards from the main residence, a structure designed for diplomats and business partners who needed privacy without distance. Its lights burned yellow through the fog. That wasn't right. Calder stopped at the edge of the garden path. His hand found the stone railing, cold, wet, real. They're inside, he whispered. Solene didn't answer immediately. She was listening again, head tilted, eyes half closed. The way a musician listens for the note that doesn't belong. No, she said finally, they expect you to run here. Calder's breath caught. What? She moved past him, stepping off the path into the damp grass. Her shoes made no sound. Years of cleaning marble floors had taught her how to disappear inside a space. They plan for panic, she said, not strategy. From her coat pocket she pulled the recording device again. Her fingers worked the screen. They've been moving money, she said, not stealing it, shifting it. Shifting it where? Accounts that don't trace back to you, partnerships that existed on paper but never in practice, signatures you never made. Calder's chest tightened. That's impossible. Solene looked up. Her expression wasn't angry, it wasn't triumphant, it was exhausted. It was impossible, she said, until you stopped noticing the quiet. She pressed play again. New voices filled the air between them, different from before, legal terms discussed over lunch, amendments suggested casually, board votes scheduled during his overseas trips, offshore structures built to hold assets that would vanish the moment his name disappeared from the right documents. One voice stood out, the CFO who'd called him twice tonight. Solene stopped the recording. I didn't start this for revenge, she said quietly. I started because if you disappeared, no one would believe it wasn't your choice. The weight of it crushed down. Not murder. Erasure. Calder looked back toward the main house. Shadows moved behind the study windows, methodical, unhurried. They think I'm still in Chicago, he said. They know you are, Solene corrected. Because the system told them so. Your phone, your jet's transponder, your credit cards, everything you use to prove you exist, they control it. His hands went numb. For how long? Months, she said, maybe longer. Calder's mind raced through every board meeting, every signature, every decision he'd made in the past year. How many had actually been his? How many contracts had been altered after he signed them? How many votes had been cast in his name while he slept on flights across oceans? This isn't theft, Solene continued. It's replacement. By tomorrow morning there's a version of your empire that runs without you, and every legal document will say you chose to step away. No one would believe that. They will, she said, because you've been acting different, forgetting things, saying you approved decisions you don't remember, missing appointments, looking tired, looking sick. Calder's stomach turned. The poisoning wasn't meant to kill him. It was meant to make him unreliable. They needed you confused, Solene said. Not dead. Confused people make mistakes, sign things they shouldn't, agree to terms they'd normally fight, and when you finally collapsed, when the drugs finally became too much, they'd have months of documentation showing you were unfit to lead. His vision blurred. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Solene's eyes held steady. I tried, you said not to worry. The words hit like a blade. He had said that weeks ago when she'd mentioned the coffee, when she'd asked about his headaches, when she'd quietly suggested he see a different doctor. He dismissed her. Because power doesn't hear warnings. It hears consequences. What are you really? Calder asked. Solene didn't answer immediately. She reached into her bag and removed a folded document, thick paper, legal weight, the kind used for trusts and wills. She handed it to him. Calder unfolded it slowly. The heading read, Contingency Executive Trust Ashbourne Holdings. His brain